Today we are very grateful to welcome missionaries in our church. Since we are a missional church, and I hope that everyone will be excited with the following message, but also obey it. We are having missionaries Eugene and Kara Young, founders of Step 30 International Ministries, with us today. They will be sharing a powerful message about global needs and their own life story. And it's truly amazing to see how this missionary couple, while raising 4 children, has devoted their lives in serving in Kenya, saving lives there, and bringing hope there. So let us welcome them with a warm applause.
All right, good morning, brothers and sisters. All right, my name is Eugene. I just landed, from Taiwan 2 days ago. So I'm very happy to be here this morning to be able to share with you guys what we do in Kenya and the global mission situation. So a little bit of background. The title of the sermon is called The World Outside of Our World. And the reason why I named it is because of my wife. Now, she's Canadian, by the way. She grew up in Guelph. And she actually grew up in a missionary household. So my father-in-law, since he was younger, like 18-year-old, he would travel around India to different countries to share the gospel. So my wife, when my father-in-law, when he was younger, he used to pray this prayer saying like, God, I want to have the blessing of Abraham. Now, without knowing, one of the blessing of Abraham is what? Becoming the father of all nations. So his 4 daughters married off to all different ethnicities and different nations. So you got the German, you got the American, and then the 3rd kid married to a Taiwanese, me, and then the 4th one to African from Rwanda. So, and then we got 4 kids. Pastor Sophia said we got 4 kids. That's actually an average number in their family. So my father-in-law actually now has 16 grandkids and still counting. A lot of kids, huh? So whenever we gather together for a family reunion, it's almost like United Nations having a meeting, all different colors. And anyway. So that's the background of, my wife's household. So I remember her telling me the story that when she was at the age about like 11 or 12, she would travel. That was the first time she traveled to India, to the slum, to the remote villages with my father-in-law. And she was shocked because she said to me, at the time, I thought everybody was kind of like me. Every single night we will held hand with my family, pray and eat dinner. I thought everybody's the same. She didn't know that in the slum, she would meet girls just like her age, and they're in prostitution. They have to sell parts of their body so that they'll have the next meal. That blew her mind. And then she realized there's a whole world outside of her world. And that's when she started entering into global mission, world cross-cultural mission. So she started traveling to South America. She started traveling to India, Europe, and Africa. And then by the time she hits about 20, 21, she came to Taiwan and got stuck in Taiwan with me. And then we started traveling to Africa. And the reason why we traveled to Africa is because about 13 to 14 years ago, my father-in-law started going to East Africa in Uganda and Kenya, started doing house church meetings and training disciples there. And, he started to realize there's a lot of humanitarian needs. So he started building wells, he started building schools. And about 11 years ago, my father-in-law traveled to Taiwan to see his grandkid. My firstborn was born 11 years ago. And he was sharing with us in the school, kids started having education. So it was great, but there was only one problem. Their feet are all rotten. Why? Because there's a parasite called jiggers. It's all over the ground. So the jiggers will bury themselves into the feet of our students and start laying eggs. So the students will have very itchy legs. They will scratch it, and eventually they'll get a needle out and start digging all the bugs and the eggs out. Now, of course, that will stop them from growing, in their feet. But when you have open wound, blood and everything, you step back onto the dirt ground, guess what's going to happen? Bacterial infection. Severe cases, you have to do amputation, life-threatening situation. So my father-in-law started buying shoes for them to wear from Canada. So he would carry like 1 suitcase, 2, 3, 4, 5 suitcases, carry them there. But it was never enough because he had already built about 3 schools at that time. So I was in Taiwan. I heard the story. I'm like, Taiwanese people got tons of shoes. I'm pretty sure here too. So I made a poster. It says, old shoes save life. If you know Chinese, it sounds better in Chinese. 旧鞋救命. Anyway, so I made this poster. I put it out there. It got reposted 1,000 times, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 times. There's tons of people are passing it around in Taiwan social media. And I was telling my wife, do you think people are actually going to send shoes? And then the next day, there are like 3, 4, 5, 6 delivery trucks lining up, pouring shoes into our house. You see that? I'm going to show you the picture. The top right corner, you see that right there? 50,000 pairs of shoes, 100,000 pairs of shoes started flooding into the house. That's me standing on top of the mountain. And that location right there, that's actually my brother's living room. So all his furniture and everything was buried underneath. So every time I look back to the story, I'm always very grateful. I'm very grateful I put down his address instead of mine. I mean, his house is a little bit bigger, so I was like, can I put the shoes here? He's like, yeah, sure. All right. But anyway, that's the beginning of the ministry. So we started sending the first container, second container, and we started actually establish a ministry, an organization, register NGO. And then let's go to the next page. We started sending more and more and more shoes. Every year, we would treat about 15 to 20,000 kids all over Africa now. And then we started sending first 1 million pairs of shoes, 2 million pairs of shoes, 3 million pairs of shoes, and to about 10 different countries in Africa. We've sent to Togo, Malawi, Senegal, Uganda, Somaliland, where else? Swatini, and Kenya, Uganda. Anyway, 10 countries. So as the organization continued to grow, we realized, hey, that container, pretty much like that container that you have sitting outside there, we can use that. We can utilize that. So we started building school out of container structures. Sunday schools, we'll cut window, put roof on it. We started having Sunday school. We started having a training center. We started implement education, think that's going to change them in the long term. And then we started building actual elementary school, high school. So the education part of the department continued to grow. And then we realized just because we treated their feet are getting better. They're still drinking dirty water. So the death rate in the village, in the desert, is still really high. So we started digging wells. So we started doing solar power. We started doing all kinds of water-related projects. And then we realized they need food, So we started teaching them how to do organic farming. We started teaching them how to grow chicken, cow, and all kinds of sustainable projects. And then, of course, we want to stay true to our core, which is the mission. So we started collaborating with a lot of churches in Taiwan to send mission teams. We send about 12 teams a year. They will go in there, they will serve. Some will do 2 weeks, some will do 6 months. So a lot of the things are happening in the mission field. And then as we venture into the remote side of the countries, we started to realize there are a group of people that we will call unreached people group. Meaning that for their whole life, they would never had the opportunity to hear the gospel in the desert. So we started recruiting young guys in Taiwan. We said, would you willing to be giving 10 years of your life to learn the language? Because you will be the first group of people that will step into this village. Do you want to spend 2 years learning the first language, trading language, and then the second year, the third year, learn the second language, tribal language, to live in there, to translate the Bible, and to actually establish churches. So that's what we're doing with our MOVE sending agency. So we started sending young people entering into the villages. So that's pretty much what we do, in Step 30. So I feel like as I accidentally started this ministry, it has opened up my eyes because I was not really involved in any form of cross-cultural things. I had no clue what's happening outside. Let me give you an example. Let me ask you, do you guys know what is the number one persecuted country, for Christians? Which country is the number one persecuted country for a Christian? Yeah, just shout it out. Yeah. China, it's not China. It's very tough, but it's not, number one. That's right, North Korea. Let me ask you this question. Who here has prayed for our brothers and sisters in North Korea in this month? You can raise your hand. The past 3 months? Past 6 months? This year? Oh, good. We got 1 or 2. All right. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. Even when I ask around in Taiwan, this is the average stat. Like, this is the average situation. And I realize in Taiwan, it's not because we don't care about our brothers and sisters being killed and put in prison and going through all kinds of persecution. It's not because we don't care. It's simply because we don't know. We don't know what's happening over there. You know, I remember one time my friend invited somebody who fled from North Korea, to Taiwan. So as she was giving the speech describing what the brothers and sisters had to do to preach the gospel, to kind of just be a believer, I remember that day, everybody was crying, bawling their eyes out in the crowd. And it's like, what do you need? What kind of support do you need? I'm willing to pray for you guys. I'm willing to give money. I'm willing to do anything for you guys. I'm like, people care. So what happened before? They just didn't know. They don't know this information. So for me to accidentally step into this cross-cultural mission thing, I started having a lot of new information, and it just opened up my eyes. I remember, talking to other missionaries, and they will introduce me other books or resources to relearn. I remember this one book that really, really resonated with me is called The Voices of the Martyr. I don't know if you guys read this book. It records all the Christian martyrs around the world from year 33, which is Stephen from the Bible. And every single year, it will record what happened to this martyr, this missionary, horrific death or sacrifice, and all the way to year 2000 and something. And I remember reading that thinking, wow, it still happens today? I don't know if you guys are familiar with the ministry called Open Doors Ministry. They kind of do surveys around the world and do calculations and let you guys know the top 50 persecuted country in the world for Christians. This is what we call the 1040 window, if you know this. According to Open Doors Ministry, there are still, to this day, 360 million Christians live in places where they experience high level of persecution. 360 million. That's like 1 out of every 7 Christians in the world. So it's not a small number of people that are receiving persecution. It's a big chunk of our brothers and sisters that will have to go through persecution simply because they believe in Jesus. They have to sacrifice because they are Christians. And according to this ministry, in the past 12 months, which is not a long time, just past 12 months, there are 4,476 Christians that were killed for their faith. Just in the past 12 months alone, 7,679 churches and ministries were attacked. Just in the past 12 months, 4,744 believers were arrested for no reason, or simply because they're Christians. And that is happening around the world right now as we speak. It's not a little number of people. It's a lot of Christians, our brothers and sisters, that are going through it. And I feel like a lot of times we can read these numbers like, World Vision stat or how many kids that are hungry. Every 5 seconds, there's a kid dying in Africa. I feel like this number is really far away from where we are. So let me give you an illustration. In my, in Step 30, in my ministry, I have a rule. Every single one of us will have to go to Africa, go into the village, go to the desert. Doesn't matter if you're an accountant, doesn't matter if you're a project manager, if you're a missionary, if you work for me, I want you to go to Africa, whatever country we can decide later, but I want you to go into the desert to see the places, to see the infrastructure that we have built. Because I don't want my team to just know how to do their job. I want them to know why they're doing their job. And I remember this one time, this one guy, his name is called Jian Hong. Now, Jian Hong, he's blue collar, manual labor, not a Christian. He just came to work for our warehouse. So every day he would be packing shoes, sending shoes, do the warehouse job. And then at night he would go home, drink alcohol. That's kind of his whole lifestyle. He'd never travel outside of Taiwan. Never sit on an airplane. Never. So the first time is with me, Africa, desert. It was kind of cool for him. So we took this airplane ride, 10, 20 hours later. We arrived in the Nairobi, in the city of the capital of Kenya, and then took a small airplane, 2 hours to get into a smaller town, and then took the car ride 5 hours, 6 hours to get into the desert. It was pretty cool for him. So he loved kids. I didn't know this, but he loved kids. He would play with all the kids, play with them. He would see the infrastructure, see the well, see the school and everything. And then we would venture into even deeper desert part of the town, part of the village. And he would try to talk to the mom and things like that. But anyway, that night, as we camp out, sleeping in a tent, I remember talking to him. I said, hey, John, what do you think? What do you think about this whole experience? What do you think about the infrastructure? What do you think about this village? He said, I love it. I love the kids. I love, playing with them. I love it. I love what we do. And I just paused and said, hey, all these kids that you're playing with, half of them are going to die. Did you know that? And he's like, what do you mean? Yeah. Statistically speaking, 40-something% of the kids before the age of 5 will die because of dirty water, because of malnutrition. So that means half the kids that you play with today, in a couple of years, they're going to die. And I was shocked because he started bawling his eye out. He cried, and he was like, no, we got to do something about it. And I'm like, that's what we do every day. You knew this, didn't you? I mean, that's our job. We send shoes, we build school for them, we build wells and provide clean water, we teach them how to do farming. That's why we're buzzing our butt off trying to fundraise. That's why. You didn't know this? Of course you knew. I remember thinking, why was he reacting, so dramatically? And I realized at that moment, those kids were no longer numbers. Those kids are no longer numbers in our annual report. But for him, he hugged them, he played with them, he knew their names. They're not just numbers anymore. And sometimes I wonder for us Christians, when we hear about 4,000 Christians, our brothers and sisters being killed and tortured every day, are they just numbers to us? Is it because they're so far away that we don't really relate to them, so we don't think about them, we don't pray with them, we don't pray for them? And I really feel like we need to grasp this idea that they are real people who are under persecution for the sake of preaching the gospel, taking the gospel to the ends of the world. We need to understand they are missionaries that are risking everything, their life, so that the gospel will be advanced. And we got to pray for them. I think it's such a privilege to be able to travel around the world to different villages and deserts and places. Now, of course, not only that, I also have the opportunity to travel to Canada, to Hong Kong, to America to share about what we do. I remember a couple of years ago, I went to Silicon Valley in LA, in America. Now, I don't know if you know familiar with Silicon Valley. That's the home of Facebook, the home of Google, Apple, all the high-tech companies. So I was invited to go to different churches, Chinese churches particularly, to preach. I never feel like in Taiwan I had any form of prophetic gifting. But when I was in Silicon Valley, all the Chinese churches, I felt different. I would walk into the auditorium and be like, hey, you're an engineer, right? They're like, how did you know? Everybody in the Chinese churches, they're all engineers. Everybody worked for Google, for Apple, for all this high-tech company. But that's also the reason why that place in the Chinese churches, they're one of the top 2-3% of the world. When I say top, I mean materialistically speaking. They live a really good life. And I remember talking to pastors and pastors' wives. They always say, in our church, we're too comfortable. Everything about us is about giving our kids better education. Princeton University, that university. Everything about us is getting a better job, better pay, bigger house, bigger cars. We're too comfortable. I remember having this conversation in a radio show too, and we're talking about Yeah. It's good. It's actually a blessing. It's God's grace that we get to enjoy this comfortable lifestyle. We need to be thankful. But we also need to be careful because Christian life is kind of like a boat where you sail into the sea. And all these blessings are the anchors that you put down in your life. What I mean is when you get a good job at Google or Facebook, you put the anchor down. Your kids just got into the best school that you can get them. Promotion, big house. Everything that you have becomes an anchor to where you are. And there's nothing bad, inherently bad about it. But the danger, the risk is that you find so many Christians get stuck in a position in life or location in life. Nobody is able to call them out. Not even God. Not even God. And I think that is the danger. The danger is this. If material pleasure is the thing that we seek in life, the Great Commission will never come to pass. The Great Commission will never come to pass. The gospel will never reach the ends of the world if all of us are seeking pleasure and comfort as our ultimate goal in life. I remember hearing Pastor David Platt talking about this. I thought it was a very interesting way he put it. He said, you know where the unreached people groups are? The hardest place. Why? Because the easy places have all been chosen. What's left, the gospel has not reached, are the places that are underdeveloped or persecuted. Who's going to take the gospel there to the end of the world? You know, I remember I have a friend, Wayne, when he spent 10 years of his life in a small island, in Papua New Guinea, 3,000 people. Him and his friend, they're the first group of people that have the contact with this group, this small island village people. They would drink rainwater, and then they learn the language, and then they actually create words because they don't have words. So my friend created words and translated the Bible, established the very first church so that this people group, this language group now has the very first church. I remember they were having a conversation with their people, the tribal people. They said, I realized one thing for you guys, for Christians. He said, business people are willing to go very, very far for money. But you're not willing to go as far for your gospel. Everywhere in the world that people need to risk their life, living a lesser, living condition, but they're willing to do it if there's business. They're willing to go. But it doesn't seem like Christians are willing to go as far as where money is. And I remember that really hurt my friend's feeling. But we got to be careful to see if that's where we are. Because the heart of God is for all people, all nation, all tribe, all tongues to be able to hear the gospel. We see that very clearly in the Bible. So if you look at Genesis chapter 1, when men and women are first created, God asks us to be fruitful, increase in number, fill the earth, and subdue it. In the Bible, it's always whole earth. It's always all people. And you go read on Genesis chapter 12 where, he called Abraham to become the blessing of all earth. All the people on earth will be blessed through you. And then you continue to read on to Matthew 28, which is the Great Commission. Everybody knows this stuff. That's the last command that Jesus has given to us. I don't know about you. I got 4 daughters. I always picture this in my dying bed. I'm about to go. The very last thing I'm going to tell them, it got to be something important. I'm not going to ask them to clean their room. I'm not going to ask them to wash their clothes. I'll probably ask them to take care of mom. Hold on to your faith. Whatever that I say, it's going to be very important for me. So this is the last thing that before Jesus leaves, he left this message for us. He said, Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. That's Jesus' heart. And then let's finish it with the last book of the Bible, Revelation. In Revelation, we see this vision. After this, I looked, before me was a great multitude that no one could count. From where? every nation, tribe, people, and language standing before the throne, before the Lamb. For that to happen, missionaries need to be sent out. For that to happen, cross-cultural mission for unreached people group needs to happen so we can see that. You see, from the Bible, like everything, Adam and Eve, Abraham, Great Commission, Paul, Revelation, even Jesus was the greatest missionary of all time. So it's very, very clear. However, this is something that I was thinking about a couple days ago. I was thinking, preparing this message, what do I want to share with you guys? But it's hard. It's hard. You know why? If you were born in this church, grew up in this church, or if you have just been sitting here for more than 3 years, 5 years, it's going to be very, very hard for you to hear anything new. Everything that could be said and done and preached, you have probably already heard it. And I guarantee the next preacher that's going to come on the stage next week is going to preach the same thing that you have already heard in the past. I'm already done like talking 25 minutes, but there's nothing new in a way. It's going to be hard for you to have new revelation. You come to Sunday school, a Sunday church to sit and get it. No, you already heard it all. You already know it at all. So what do I want to talk about? And I got this illustration popping in my head thinking, maybe I can share this with you guys. My daughter's name's Anya. She's 11 years old. And every single day, there's one fight. I always fight with her about this one thing, every single day, about cleaning her room. Every single day. I'll go home and I say, Anya, you're 11 years old. You can do this. You're old enough. Keep your room clean. Please go clean your room. Every day, every single day, 100 times. And let's just picture this. Anya goes into her room, close the door, 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, she opens the door. Daddy, I understand now. You love me. I understand your heart now. It's because you love me, so you want me to live in a good living room in a good condition so that there's no bacteria growing. You love me. I understand your heart now. What do you think that's going to make me feel? Awesome. Understands my heart. Have you cleaned it? No. Yeah. I'm like, okay, go clean your room. Imagine she goes in there 5 minutes later, opens up the room. Daddy, I just came up with 5 most effective way to clean the bedroom. I'm like, my kid's using her brain, is good, smart kid, that's awesome. Have you cleaned it? No. Right? At this point, you'd be like, okay, quickly go back and clean your room and let me know and show me. Imagine 5 minutes later, she opens up the door. Daddy, I just learned how to say clean my bedroom in Hebrews and Greek. I'm like, have you cleaned it or not? No. At this point, I'll probably want to kick her butt and tell her to go in there to clean it. Imagine she actually stayed in there for 10, 15 minutes, like a good long time. And then all of a sudden, she opens the door. Daddy, I already called a bunch of friends that we're going to come here every single Sunday to talk about cleaning the bedroom. Like, we think about this as like, this is ridiculous. But sometimes I wonder if that's what we do as Christians. We spend so much time understanding the heart of God, which is a good thing, not a bad thing, by the way. And we come up with 5 most effective ways to evangelize. Right? And we learn about Hebrews and Greek. What was it that Jesus was trying to say originally when he said go? Let's look up the Greek. Go means go. I guess it's just go. Or we gather together every single week to talk about how we want to clean the bedroom. But the point is, are we actually doing it? Here's what I'm trying to say. Like, everybody knows we need to feed the poor, care for the orphans and widows. Everybody knows we need to make disciples. Everybody knows we need to read and pray for the sick. Everybody knows that we need to do all these things. Nobody's shocked. Nobody's shocked saying like, oh, did you know that we need to take the gospel to the ends of the world? Did you know that? I didn't know that. Did you know we need to pray for the sick? No, I didn't know that. No, everybody already know all the information there is to know in a way. I always feel like if Christians just go out there and do the things that we actually know, we can turn the world upside down already. But it's very easy for us to just come and sit and continue to take in more information. And the world needs us. I'm gonna end with this story. A couple months ago, I was in West Pokot County in Loki Village. Now, this village is very, very, very remote in the desert. So they're kind of excluded from the society. So they live in a very traditional way. You could say that. And so traditional, they still have female circumcision. Okay, so most of the world has already abandoned that, but because they're so remote, they can just do their own thing. Nobody cares. If you don't know what female circumcision is, basically, as a kid who grow up, becomes mature, the women will be grabbed and perform female circumcision. What they would do is they would get a blade or a knife and cut off her clitoris. And sometimes they will sew up their private parts. Some don't, some will do that. And that's still being performed in our village. Sorry. Every time I talk about this is hard. Because I got 4 daughters, So I'm not here just to talk about the infection that you will get from the blade. The complication that can come from doing all this horrific thing to those young girls. You think about it, growing up, you are being viewed as someone's property rather than a human being. So what happened is after they perform female circumcision on you and they're done with you, you continue to grow a little bit. And when you get to a certain age, the parents will sell you off. They will talk to somebody in the village that has, older guys will have a cow or a sheep or a lamb or whatever they have. And they will strike a deal with your parents and sell you off at the age of 16. And I'm not talking about you're going to have a wedding and be married off to someone. I'm talking about in the middle of the night, somebody would drive a truck to your house and pick you up and you're gone. You're somebody's wife. And in that household, you have to maintain your house. You have to fix the dirt wall mud house. You have to walk 30 minutes, 40 minutes every day to go fetch water with a big bucket on your head. You've probably seen the pictures. And domestic violence is very common. Now, the reason why I went there is because we built a clinic a couple of years ago, and we built an elementary school, and we just built a high school this year. So I was there visiting them. And of course, in our clinic, we have treated a lot of those young girls. And if you cannot take it, if you cannot take the beating and all the mistreatment, and you run back to your family, you know what's going to happen? Your parents can only say, hey, you're already someone's wife. We can't do anything about it. They were trying to convince you to go back to your husband. That happens a lot. And the reason why I want to share this is because when I was visiting our school, I was at first only checking on our curriculum, the structure, all this stuff. And then as I was talking to the principal was trying to show me all the report cards and everything. And then he mentioned something. He said, oh, yeah. Eugene, remember we have female circumcision problem here, right? And we noticed one thing. All these little girls, they come to our school, they study, and because they're studying, so that some of the family will feel like, oh, we don't want to disturb that, so they postpone their circumcision ritual. And now that we have built high school, they will continue to go on to study and study and study. Maybe by the time they hit 17, 18, 19, when they're grown, and they go back home, they will never have to be performed that female circumcision ritual. And the principal was even telling me that if we just have enough number of people that will graduate, that means imagine we have 50 people, 100 people who have received education, hygiene education. That could drastically change the dynamic of our village. That means when there's enough people that will go against this tradition, this could be, eradicated. I was not thinking about this when we first started building the school, but it was awesome hearing that. And there's so many incidents where these young girls now, they graduated because they're the first person who have education. So they can go into town, get a different kind of job. Their life has totally changed from education. And not only that, let me show you a picture of our church. This is a church that we will gather together under a tree. That's kind of how we gather together, under a tree, and then, we will clap, we will use drum, we will beat the drum, and then for an hour, the African mamas would just worship and worship and worship. And I remember there was one day I was talking to some of the young people, young guy from the church, and he was telling me that I used to rape girls all the time. And I thought it was a his thing. I thought it was just him. He was just somebody who's terrible. And he said, oh, no. This is our culture. He raped somebody. He raped somebody too. We all rape people. We all rape young girls. That's just who they are. That's just who we are. And I was really shocked hearing that. And he said, but it's different now. Knowing the gospel has changed my perspective. I understand each woman, young girl, has value. God created them with value. And I have changed. And these young guys are telling me that now we gather together trying to tell other guys, don't rape people. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. But it's true, if you really think about it, church, gospel, the existence of church and gospel has changed a lot, so much in that village. And plus education, all this is going to drastically change that village. I was so thrilled just a couple months ago hearing all these stories. But I was also thinking, man, that's only one village. There's the next village, there's next village, there's next village, and there's next. And that's why Jesus said a couple thousand years ago, he said, the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. Even till now, there's still so much that we have to do. There's still billions of people that would never hear the gospel. According to Joshua Project, there's still 2 billion people that we would call the unreached people group. What does that even mean? That means when they were born, grow up, get old, sick, whatever, and die, their whole life, they have no access to the gospel, meaning that there's no missionary going into their village, meaning that the Bible has not translated to their language, meaning that there's no local church, meaning that there's no way for them to know Jesus, hear the good news. Not because they deny it. They just simply don't have the opportunity to deny it. Billions of people will go into eternity without opportunity to know God. The harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. In Missionville, this is what we call the great imbalance. If you count the number of cross-cultural missionaries that are specifically going into the unreached people group, there are only 13 to 15,000 of us that are going in there. That means we leave those 2 billion souls in the hands of those 15,000 people. It's going to be really hard for them to finish the task. And that's why when every Sunday we sit in church singing worship songs, talk about all nations will come before you, will bow before you, will worship you. I don't think it's going to happen soon because there are still billions of people with no access to the gospel. I feel like whenever I talk about this, or in a mission conference, they would invite me in Taiwan to go preach in a mission conference. There's always one fear that I have. Whenever I tell this compelling story, people are moved. People cry or whatever, emotional flare. I always have this fear that if they don't do anything, they're not just growing the knowledge of mission, but they are getting desensitized by all this information. Right? Like we all can fall into that trap. When you first start coming to Christ, when the message is preached, you need to forgive somebody. You will say, man, maybe I should forgive my dad. Maybe I should forgive my friends. But the same passage, the same message that's being preached the second, third, fourth, the 50th time, you can hear that. You can hear the calling of God and think about, I'm going to go eat dim sum later. So brothers and sisters, that's not grow numb to the needs of the world. That's not grow numb to the commands of God. And that's why I'm super honored to be here today. Because RHCCC has decided to partner with us. Because we are doing this shoe drive together. All the shoes that you give, all the money that you give will go towards everything that I just said. We'll provide them the resources that they need. Or even giving them the opportunity to work with our missionaries to hear the gospel. So brothers and sisters, I'm truly grateful that we get to do this together. But man, my time is up. And I have to leave you one thing. Because a couple days ago, I was reading this report talk about an average congregation like you will forget 98% of the things that I say. I mean, that's just the number, which means everything that I said today, despite how, interesting it is, how moving it is, in a couple months, you're going to forget about 98% of the things that I said. And if there's only 2% of the stuff that you can remember, I was talking to my wife, what do you think I should ask them to remember? And I thought about it. This is what I say. If there's only one thing that you can remember from this talk, remember this. That's remember to clean our room. Let's bow our head and pray. Hallelujah. So we can contact them, bring the village to them. So can you send somebody to bring the gospel? That's a very good observation. So let me finish with prayer and we can talk. There's a lot of strategy that we can share, talk about, discuss. It's really great conversation. All right, let's pray and let's receive. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. We thank you so much for the blessing that we get to have here in Canada. We thank you for the grace that you have given upon us, all the material things, even the comfort, the safety that we can get to sit in the church, to hear your word, to read your word without having worry about persecution around us. And God, I just want to pray this. I want to pray that you will remind us. I want to pray that you will remind us there's still millions and millions of family that are in need of help, whether it's charity work, whether it's mission work, whether it's the gospel that needs to take it, we need to take it to them. Lord, help us to remember there are still so much need in the world. And Father, I want to pray that. I want to pray that you will mobilize RHCCC Church's resource, knowledge, prayer, money, finance, and the staff and everything that we have towards the Great Commission. God, help us to have the vision that as we involve, as we partake in this Great Commission, we know that one day when our short time is done here on earth, in heaven, in eternity, there will be a group of people speaking a different language, maybe with different skin color, maybe with different culture, but they are able to be in eternity to worship you together with us because of our involvement here on earth. So God, help us to fix our eyes on your Great Commission. Help us to partake your heart, your mission. Lord, we know that. Help us not to only focus on what we have here on earth in this short time, but to have a heart of eternity and to truly be light and salt in Canada and around the world, so that the whole world may one day, that we actually get to do this one day, all people, all nation, all tongue will actually have the opportunity to bow before you and worship you together as one church. I thank you. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.